It's Wednesday and class is back in session with Kindergarten 3, and these kids and teachers are just as bad as ever. If you're unfamiliar with the two previous kindergarten games, then be sure to keep an eye out on the channel, as I'll be releasing them over the next few days, finished with a whole series explanation going into the shenanigans of these kindergarten students. Before we break down the story, I do want to warn you that spoilers are ahead, including the solutions to each of the missions that take place in Kindergarten 3, since it's sort of necessary to be able to give you guys the story. Without further ado, let's try and avoid detention. I must say, we really are getting quite the room upgrade here on Wednesday, compared to only 2 days ago during the events of Kindergarten 1. Why is our bedroom always changing? Well, it's one of the great mysteries of this universe. Once again, we're stuck in a time loop, replaying the same day over again until we figure out the great mystery that's plaguing our third school in 3 days. On our first day, we attempt to read a pamphlet on the wall, but realise that it's probably going to take more than 3 days to learn how to read. We meet our new teacher, Miss Lovelet, a strange woman that rhymes all of her sentences. She is very theatrical and enjoys plays. Coincidentally, she's looking for students to take part in such a play. We offer our services as an actor, but our new teacher points out that our face is a little lame for the part. Ouch. We instead take a more behind-the-scenes role as a casting director for the play of King Lear, a Shakespeare story that requires 3 actors. We need an awful girl for the part of Goneril, someone a little bit off for the role of Cornwall, Goneril's main squeeze, and somebody to be the Earl of Gloucestershire, a rich old fool. When I heard of an awful girl, I had the perfect candidate immediately. Who better than Cindy? She isn't really convinced of the idea, but when we tell her that it could be a great way to get a jump start on becoming a celebrity, she agrees, saying that she didn't plan on featuring in her first major movie until she was at least 6. We feel this could be a great career move for her. The next choice is Felix. Turns out Teddy had enough of Felix's crap from yesterday and decided to swap out their clothes so he would be able to go to the rich academy instead of Felix. Felix is less than pleased at being left at the, poor institution. But who better to play the rich snob than, a rich snob? We ask him to play the part of Earl, which offends Felix, saying that he will be a king and nothing less. We agree, but he requires a crown in order to take on the role. Our final casting choice is looking for somebody that's a little bit off. And quite frankly, Nugget is really the only choice for this one. He is playing in the green goo, saying just how much he likes it and even asks us to join him. We ask him to join the play, but he points out that he's just too busy with goo to become a thespian. But he is willing to become an actor if we eat some of the goo. We get ourselves a handful of the green stuff and waste no time. But it doesn't take long before we actually turn green. Nugget points out that we cannot endure goo the same way that Nugget can, and suggests that we go and see the nurse. Outside the nurse's room, we can find Miss Applegate, who has now become a front desk lady instead of a teacher, saying how much better it is than having to deal with children all day. The nurse gives us a dose of antidote to cure us from the goo, and we begin our class. We hand in our casting sheet, but the 3 students we hired for the play quickly become unhappy. Felix points out that he was promised a crown. This causes Cindy to demand a bouquet of flowers since she got jealous of Felix. And Nugget wants goo, because it's Nugget. For the crown, we speak to Davy, who proclaims himself as king of the playground. He's only willing to give up his crown if we feed his pet alligator out in the front yard. I am sure that a pet alligator outside of a kindergarten is not breaking any kind of safety laws at all. Linda, the alligator, has eaten all the surrounding ducks, and Davy asks us to get the class fish, Guppy, for Linda. The teacher is disappointed by the demand but concedes that they'll just have to get a new class pet. After grabbing Guppy, Nugget points out that he feels weird before his arm explodes and is now turned into a full-blown claw. Nugget now feels better and requires more goo. We give Guppy to Davy and retrieve the crown. We waste no time and head into the school bathroom, where one of the sinks is filled with goo. We grab some for Nugget and let some of it leak into the grate. It turns out that the dumpster woman from the previous school is now taking up residence here, changing her name to Gutter Wench, a lateral move as far as names go. We head outside and get a bouquet of red flowers for Cindy before returning to Miss Lovelet. The play can now begin. Nugget gets a little too much into character as he unleashes his claw, straight up removing Felix's eyeball, much to his dismay. The teacher points out that the show must go on as Cindy reads out her line that one side will mock the other, so the two must match. After a jelly war cry from Nugget, he removes Felix's other eyeball, blinding the poor kid. The teacher is incredibly happy with the performance and the 3 bow, and she gives us a library card as a reward for our troubles. I'm glad she realizes who made the real sacrifices here. At lunch, Nugget's other arm explodes and he now has 2 claws for arms, calling again for more goo. We head into the library and retrieve the Wizard of Oz book for the teacher as she wants to do another play. asking us to reassemble the same crew from the previous play. Cindy is willing to allow her stardom to increase, once again requiring a bouquet of flowers for the job. Nugget wants more goo, pointing to the puddle that the janitor is now in the process of cleaning. If you're wondering why he's missing an arm and it's just spilling blood everywhere, he had a less than positive run-in with Linda the alligator before school. We need to leave, so we get our purple-haired Bugs replacement to throw a burger at him. This gives the janitor a bit of a late-life crisis, as he wonders if he's lost his edge, if one bad run with the gator has caused these students to be less scared of him. He proceeds to prove his point, insulting Monty, blaming him for the burger, and suggests that he's still mad since he now requires a dress in order to walk, remembering that this janitor is the reason that Monty was unable to walk after his cafeteria beatdown on Monday, then requiring him to use a wheelchair on Tuesday. Monty pleads that it wasn't him, but he does admit that he is sort of mad, since while he can now walk with the dress, it actually prevents him from being able to use his arms. He can only use one or the other. The janitor gives him an up-close and personal reminder of what the mop is capable of, while reminding him that food is for eating, and not for throwing at recent amputees. Stevie, the hall monitor, also a previous victim of the janitor's beatdowns, tries to coach Monty in how to take the mop beating, saying to protect the face and not to go towards the light, or the mop. Surprisingly, Miss Applegate, or as the janitor calls her, Miss Bouncy Biddies, actually tells him that Monty was not responsible for the burger attack, instead it was our purple-haired classmate. Monty screams out, asking why she didn't say this a little earlier, now accepting that he now at least has something to talk about during his group therapy session. Instead of doubling up the beatdown, the janitor recruits our burger-throwing friend to help him fight Linda outside, leaving the goo for Nugget to now play in and securing him in our play. We give up our library card to Carla, in return for her distracting Miss Bouncy Biddy, I mean Applegate. At the same time, Alice is called into the principal's office. Using the distraction, we head back into the hallway, and damn, Felix really has seen better days, huh? Okay, that was probably a bit of a low blow, I apologize. At first, he thinks that we're his twin brother Teddy, so we play along. Felix asks us to take him to the hospital, saying that Teddy can give him an eye transplant, saying that he will need both of his brother's eyes, since the only reason his father keeps his twin brother around is so Felix would have a backup if something like this ever happened. Oof. We reveal ourselves as the casting director, not his brother, and ask him to take part in our Wizard of Oz play. He is, well, let's just say less than convinced after what the last one did to him. But that's nothing a little extortion can't fix. We wish him good luck, and only offer him help if he agrees to take part in the play, something he reluctantly accepts since he doesn't want his twin brother Teddy to win. Family drama, eh? We let the nurse know that Felix is missing both his eyes and is repainting the hallway red. She points out that this must mean Miss Lovelet is doing her King Lear play again, which is terrifying, since that means that this has happened before. We head out for recess as Cindy and one of the new girls, Emmy, are arguing. Cindy wants the blue flowers from Emmy's garden, but she warns that they're deadly. Cindy won't take no for an answer and calls her a mean nickname. Now, I'm actually going to keep track of these nicknames that Cindy throws out towards Emmy since I'm curious, and she throws out a lot of them. Dandelion Debbie has to give over her flowers, and Cindy won't do the play unless Cauliflower Karen lets her take them. Emmy tries to warn her again about the deadly flowers, but Cindy takes them from Rutabaga Rhonda. Nugget once again begins feeling funny before his head explodes, stating that he is now complete. Nugget is now one with the goo, and he is ready to begin the Wizard of Oz play. We find Felix in the corner, now blindfolded since he doesn't have eyes, and we attempt to point him in the right direction, but he has some trouble. Cindy states that the flowers smell weird, and begins foaming from the mouth, before collapsing on the lawn. We really are making this nurse work for her paycheck. While the nurse works her magic, we need to find somebody older, and more wise to play the Wizard of Oz. Look no further than the gutter wench, an appropriate choice since she claims to also be a witch, stating that she was a part of the compost coven centuries ago, and that it fell apart after Ethel was drowned for practicing sewer sorcery. Ooh. We get the crew together with costumes and walk the yellow brick road to the wizard. She puts out her famous toilet light show as she begins giving each one of the characters the things they most desire. Felix, who is our Tin Man, really wants eyes, but obviously his line requires a heart. The wizard gives him an actual heart, something that Lovelet points out is technically wrong since it should be more symbolic rather than vitriolic. Nugget is the scarecrow, asking for a brain, but he will settle for goo. The wizard grants a real brain, and Nugget enjoys his new snack since he's hungry now, which even grosses out the woman that is currently living in a bathroom gutter, if you would believe it or not. Cindy is our Dorothy and wants a home, which she gets, but it straight up kills her. Can't say she'll be missed. We are the lion and we require courage, which we get in the form of a security blanket. Rather tame compared to the others, but we'll take it. We received a tome of plays from the teacher for our help today, and that marks our first day adventure. Remember, we will be able to bring this along for future adventures as we relive the same day again. We start over and arrive at school once more. This time we speak with Emmy about her vegetable garden. She mentions that her and the other girls tend to the garden, but they pulled out after what happened yesterday. A bunch of kids went missing, and 2 schools have been exposed for experimenting on them. Yep. We lived it. Apparently her principal has gone missing and a lot of kids got pulled out of school. We obviously just arrived and the old janitor of the school is now the substitute principal. Not this janitor, this mass murderer is our janitor that came with us. The old principal was nice and he was heartbroken when Alice went missing. She wishes that he was here to see that she's okay now. Davey is the old principal's son, who was the best friend of Linda the alligator. The new principal, aka the old janitor, is a creep who would yell at the kids for doing, well, kid stuff. Seems a bit redundant, but sure. Anyway, she asks us to introduce her to one of the new girls from our old school to help with the garden. And because we're absolutely evil, we send Cindy. She doesn't want to be friends with Vegetable Veronica, and plans on teaching Garden Greta a lesson. Cindy decides that they need to make room for flowers. Not this non-vegan vegetable crap. She destroys her carrots, her cabbages, and after spitting on them, Emmy's will to live. She runs away crying, as Cindy cannot believe that Broccoli Becky flaked on her. We talk to Carla, who wants to set up some new shortcuts throughout the school, since the place is new, and she needs to be able to get from place to place in a pinch. She points out this punk version of the fat kid from our last school. Apparently Bugs is just catching strays. She wants to talk to him into breaking the window since our new teacher is guarding the door inside. We find out that his name is Austin, and he really doesn't need any convincing since he just loves breaking things. We jump inside to distract Stevie while Carla heads towards the bathroom. Unfortunately, we cut ourselves on the glass as we jump through the window, and Stevie offers to escort us to the nurse. When we arrive, the nurse is more shocked about Stevie's mop injuries than our little cut, telling him to sit down so she can treat him, leaving the hallway unmonitored. Inside the bathroom, Carla is unscrewing the vents, which will be her main way of getting around. We are given a screwdriver before heading to class as the bells ring. In class, Carla is hiding in the vent. She asks for some help since the only way out of here is above the toilet, and the principal is currently taking care of business. The only issue here is that it's a little high up for us to unscrew, which means we need to see if the teacher has any props that we could use. We grab a playbook, which turns out to be Jack and the Beanstalk, as Nugget once again begins his goo transformation, this time trying to reach the goo dripping from above the vent. After speaking to the teacher, Jack and the Beanstalk doesn't work without a beanstalk, but thankfully, Emmy has planted numerous beanstalk seeds below the vent, but this will require some magic, if you will. We speak with Cindy as she's arguing with Alice about who will play house. Cindy states that she and her daughter are moving in while Alice is moving in with her son. Cindy points out that her and her little troll of a child probably live in the dumpster behind the school. Alice points out that at least her son knows who her father is. Oh boy. Cindy points to us, saying that we're the daughter's father, before playing make-believe, saying that we got out of prison early and asks us to find her something heavy, so she can beat Alice with it. We point out Emmy's watering can that looks awfully heavy, and Cindy jumps into action, mentioning to Beanstalk Brenda that she has a tip about something being heavy that she can use to beat someone with. Emmy is still very upset, as the two tussle over the watering can. Reality starts to sink in for Alice as she asks us if Cindy is actually intending to attack her with the watering can. Oh dear girl, you have no idea what you're in for. Cindy strips the watering can away from Arid Ariana. Emmy asks her why she is the way she is, to which Cindy replies to go and whine about it to her therapist. If the therapist is any good, they already know about her. The humor in this game is actually top tier, I swear. Cindy points out that bullying Emmy is almost as much fun as she had bullying Lily, before setting her sights back on Alice. Alice tells her that she can just have the house, but Cindy tells her that the time to do that was before she got her hands on this watering can. Now she needs to use it. Oof, that's gonna leave a mark. For some reason, Alice is bleeding both blood and goo, and states that she should go down the slide before running off. Odd. We use that goo to grow the beanstalk, which instantly grows through the school's roof. The teacher asks us who would like to be Jack for the play, and Nugget quickly volunteers with his sights set on the goo on the wall. The issue is, his new claw doesn't make for very good climbing. He falls off and breaks both his legs. We point out to Nugget that he has fallen from much higher heights, but he reminds us that normally he has nuggets to break his fall, but not this time. No nuggets? no legs. We volunteer as the new Jack and get up to the vent and unscrew it open, allowing Carla into the classroom. We get a library card for our troubles and go to lunch. Carla is ready to open more of the school's vents, namely the one in here in the cafeteria, the nurse's office, the library, and even the janitor's closet. She is going to distract Miss Applegate so we can get the vent behind her, and we can also use Nugget, who is not currently at the cafeteria and presumably still inside the classroom with his broken legs. Luckily for us, we can tell the nurse, which should leave her vent unguarded while she tends to Nugget. Nugget is alone and tells us that he is hungry, no surprise since he's missing lunch, something he is acutely aware of since he isn't currently feasting on nuggets. He asks for medical attention since his brain is getting foggy and he now only sees the goo. Nugget craves flesh. Oh god. We beeline it to the nurse's office and tell her about Nugget. It turns out that she's a veterinarian, and after telling her about Nugget's broken legs, she plans on putting him down, much to our surprise. She states that that's just what you do when a horse breaks its leg, even though he isn't a horse. We do mention the claw, which solidifies her decision, asking when he started eating goo, and it's too late to save him now, and he has to get put down. Any kind of physical trauma will cause reactions in kids when exposed to goo. Before leaving, she just throws out just how much she loves her job. Not sure that's the time to say that, but sure. We open the vent as we hear a roar. The new principal arrives, mumbling about an antidote and how a student has just gone full Kev, not finishing a sentence as he notices us. We get sent to study hall, as Miss Applegate is now taking on the role of librarian. She tells us to read, but forgets that we're 5 and don't know how to read. We inform Carla about our antics, and she points out that we need to go find someone called Mr. Scipio, an old teacher of the school that has now been placed as janitor after a mental breakdown. We attempt to leave via the vent, but Stevie is quick to stop us, stating that he and Monty are currently having their sombrero meeting. It stands for Survivors of Mop Beatings Relieving Emotional Ravagings by Octogenarians. Can't say it rolls off the tongue. We tell Carla that they won't let us leave, and she quickly yells at them, much to the shock of Monty since he currently has the talking teddy at the meeting. Stevie assures Monty that he is heard and that they accept him. The mop doesn't change who you are on the inside, even if it does change who you are on the outside. Carla just straight up steals the talking teddy, as Monty is about to have his mental breakthrough. This gives us just enough time to unlock the vent. We get back in the hallway and wow, what has happened here? It seems Nugget did not go down without a fight, huh? The principal is asking the janitor to clean up the mess, asking if he's done it before. The janitor reminds him that he has done it loads of times. We head into the other classroom as we hear crying from behind a bunch of boxes. Turns out it's Mr. Scipio, who is hiding from monsters and states that the fetal position makes him feel safe. He mentions that a monster just broke into the room, smashed the window, and then went down the slide. He warns us not to go down the slide, since kids have been known to not return after doing so. Interesting considering what Alice mentioned earlier. We tell him that Alice is alive and not missing anymore after going down the slide, to which he states that Alice is all around us. She's in the trees, and in the grass, and in the goo. Yeah, not crazy at all. We get the janitor key from him and head back to the classroom. We now know what the janitor has experience doing, cleaning up, and it's quite the mess. This is the 5th or 6th worst nurse slaughtering he has ever seen, and that's saying something coming from this psychopath. We open up the janitor's closet and make sure to unscrew the vent, allowing us to rejoin Carla in class and opening up the entire vent system. She gives us a map of the vent system that we can keep from now on as a reward, and we begin our day once again. This time we focus our attention on the janitor, who is missing his arm after a run-in with Linda the alligator. He mentions that he and Linda were in the war together, and he wants revenge. Not to mention, without 2 arms, it makes cleaning a hell of a lot harder. He asks us to visit the nurse and to get him some bandages to stop the bleeding. We ask why he can't do it himself, and he reminds us that nurses are the polar opposites of janitors, and that they can't even see nurses. Can't argue with that logic. The issue is, we can't get inside, since our teacher won't let us in since we aren't hurt. Something that the janitor is more than happy to help with. 1 mop beating and a concussion later, we head inside. Outside the nurse's room, we can see the principal bringing Mrs. Applegate up to scratch with her new job, reminding her that all she has to do is scream at the parents when they ring to complain. We get patched up and take some extra bandages to the janitor. He tells us that he plans on using the bandages to reattach his arm, but first we need to retrieve that arm from Linda. He believes that we can just reason with her. We remind him that she's an alligator, but he points out that we have no problem reasoning with him and he's a janitor, something much more dangerous than some alligator. And to be honest, after everything that I've seen at these damn schools, he isn't wrong. Thankfully, Davey can translate alligator, and we find out that Linda is willing to give up the arm but requires flesh for flesh. The flesh in question is Guppy the fish. We remove the bandages so the teacher will let us back inside and can find the janitor making fun of Stevie once again. He calls him Crutches and asks how he's doing post mop beating. Stevie points out that they say he might even regain the use of his eye in a few decades. This impresses the janitor, who thinks he might even need to buy Stevie a beer for handling the old mop better than most. Stevie takes his leave as the janitor is inspired how quick he can move despite his disabilities. It's a real feel-good story. We head inside the classroom and retrieve Guppy for his mission, feeding him to Linda in return for the janitor's arm. Once in class, the janitor arrives, stating that it's Bring Your Son to Work Day, and makes the teacher believe that we're his son so we can leave class. Outside, we give him his arm back. He's annoyed at our tone, warning us that he might just have to run out on us like he did his last kid. He wants our help killing Linda. The problem is, Linda destroyed his mop this morning, and that is his weapon of choice. He needs a new one from the armory, aka the janitor's closet. We need the key to open it, which belongs to the principal, which at this time of day is currently taking care of his business. He's a simple man. Toilet paper in exchange for the key since he ran out. This does make me curious, however, since we don't always come to help the principal get a spare roll of toilet paper. So what does he use when we aren't around to help him? You know what, maybe I don't want to know. The nurse has spare rolls, but she also wants a trade. Cigarettes for a roll of toilet paper. Seems like an uneven exchange of goods on that one, but sure. We find Stevie in the halls and find out that he received some cigarettes from the hall monitor yesterday to help him cope with his mop beating. Out of fear, he hid it in the trash can inside the bathroom. One trash dive later, we have cigarettes. A simple trade will give us our toilet paper, and a quick toss into the cubicle will give us information for our janitor key. He tells us to let the janitor know to use janitor maneuver 17, whatever that means. We return to the janitor, who is disposing of a body bag in the principal's office. We let him know the maneuver, which I guess is just sticking a mop into a hole. Okay. Inside the hole is the closet key. And now we need bait for Linda. Davey mentioned earlier that Linda likes rabbits, so our plan is to get ourselves a rabbit during lunch. We head outside and grab a carrot from Emmy's garden before we hear the lunch bell ring. The janitor is still very unhappy, and what I find hilarious is that he didn't even really reattach his arm. He just tied it to the side of what remained of his arm. Turns out the key that we got was the wrong one, so the janitor needs help again. Miss Applegate is not willing to let us leave without eating. The janitor lets Mrs. Hootie Honkers know that it's Take Your Kid to Work Day. The problem with this plan is that unlike our new teacher, Miss Applegate is familiar with both us and the janitor and knows that we aren't actually his son. We need a distraction, and Austin is happy to oblige. Inside the principal's office, we overhear the principal speaking on the phone, mentioning how Alice doesn't suspect a thing, and he'll just drop her to be sure. Kevin was the only one that actually seemed to care about her anyway, and they are now redirecting all shipments to the academy, since nobody is confident in receiving any after what happened this week. Something to keep in mind. We meet up with the janitor, who mentions that Mr. Scipio should have the key to the closet, but the door is locked. Nothing a rock and a broken window can't fix. We tell him that we are the new janitor, and he just gives us the key without even a single fuss. I love it when it's simple. We grab the trap from the closet and head to recess. Now, the trap is simple, as long as you don't set it off yourself like my dumbass did. Also, don't speak to the local birds, they aren't fans. And the rabbits we're looking to catch, yeah, they're rabid, and will make your day real bad real quick. So we set up our trap and avoid all the local wildlife. The issue is getting back inside, since our teacher is watching us like a hawk. This will require a distraction, and Cindy will be perfect for it. See, Cindy still wants those blue flowers, and you cannot tell this girl no. So when she inevitably ends up frothing from the mouth due to the poisonous flowers, we will once again volunteer our services to retrieve the nurse for her. But unfortunately for Cindy, no nurse is coming, and her sacrifice is for the greater good. We head outside with the trap, and it seems like the old janitor is a big WWE fan, as he is standing on the top of the roof ready to pounce. A war cry and a jump that makes even Rey Mysterio proud, the janitor does what he does best, dishing out a good old-fashioned mop beating on Linda. Davey is less than pleased, but we get the end of the mop as a reward for us to use on future days. Nice. After what we just did to Linda, I feel that we should spend the new day focusing on helping her instead. We speak to Davey, who mentions that his father, the old principal, wanted to get rid of Linda, but he doesn't have to worry about it now since his dad is missing. He points out that his dad is likely evil, since all principals seem to be evil at the moment among all the schools. He mentions how our janitor tried to attack Linda earlier, resulting in his missing arm, of course. and when we offer our help, he believes that we could be a spy for the janitor and requires proof that we aren't aligned with him. So for the sake of proof, we take another mop beating. This gains Davy's trust as he explains Linda's plan to kill the janitor. Remember, this boy can speak alligator. We need to steal the fire axe that is currently in our classroom, since Linda believes that a janitor's one true weakness is getting their head split open with an axe. Who would have thought? We use our playbook to try and talk our teacher into doing a little Red Riding Hood play, since it involves the axe that could be used as a prop. She loves plays, so it doesn't take much convincing, and we once again take on our role as a casting director. We need a blonde child for Red Riding Hood, an older woman to play the wolf disguised as the grandmother, and someone willing to swing an axe. Now, Davy is perfect for the axe swinger, since that's kind of the point of this mission, and while you might suspect Cindy for the role of Red Riding Hood, let me introduce you to somebody that is also blonde and are much better suited for the role. Nugget. We give him a nugget of friendship that we received from Linda after agreeing to help her kill the janitor. This made Nugget agree almost instantly. We now need to find somebody to play the wolf, and also a red hood for Nugget so he can properly take on the role of Red Riding Hood. We head into the bathroom and acquire a towel from the gutter wench before class starts. Once in class, we have Austin break the glass so Davy can acquire the fire axe, while Nugget begins his transformation once again. The issue with this is that Red Riding Hood is supposed to be cute and sweet, not exactly having a monster claw, so Nugget will need to be healed before he takes on the role. Nugget feels he's still cute with his claw, and feels mildly discriminated against, but he'll still go to the nurse like the teacher suggested, since his goo cravings are actually starting to concern him. We also need to turn our white towel into a red one, since this will be our red hood prop. Good thing that we're bleeding everywhere, so we will also need to head to the nurse. We find Nugget in the hall banging his head into the desk. He can't find the nurse and he misses the times before craving goo. We tell him that we will retrieve the nurse for him before entering her office. She heads out to cure him while Mrs. Applegate attempts to bandage up our head. We ask her to use the towel, which makes it red but doesn't actually stop the bleeding at all. Thankfully, the actual nurse is able to help us out as she curses out Mrs. Applegate for being useless. The nurse just wants Applegate to leave, and we ask Applegate to help us with our play, instead by being the wolf, disguised as the grandmother. She accepts, and now we have our full cast. Nugget yells out to his grandmother that Nugget has brought many nuggets home to eat, while noticing the giant claw that his grandmother has, pointing out that he just had his fixed. Davy comes to the rescue, and oh my, we really do just fully commit to these plays, don't we? Unfortunately, the axe is, well, stuck in Miss Applegate's head. The bell rings and we head to lunch, but Davy now points out that we need to get that axe before the janitor cleans up Miss Applegate's body. He is worried that he will use the trapdoor in the principal's office that we saw earlier, so we need to cut the wires that power it, which is located in the janitor's closet. We will steal the nurse's scalpel inside her office while Davy distracts her and use the vent systems that we set up on our second day of the loop to return to the janitor's closet and disable the trapdoor. Genius. After retrieving the scalpel, we can see that the janitor is hard at work, cleaning up Miss Applegate, or Miss Bazongadongas, as he puts it, saying how he always knew that she would be hefty if he ever had to dispose of her, but this is just egregious. Oh, dear God. He takes a quick jab at us as we walk by, calling us lizard lovers and how Linda is going to look like old Applegate here when he's done with her. We waste no time and head to the library. We have to resort to some dirty business deal with Carla to gain entry, and it requires stealing Stevie's crutch, much to his horror. I don't feel proud of this moment, but it had to be done. We slash the blue wires and disable the trapdoor before recess. Cindy is arguing outside with both Emmy and Carla about the flowers, and she drops yet another nickname, Weedy Wendy. Alright, I'm going to add that one to the list. Nugget is being weird again, nothing new, but he mentions how even though he is free of the goo, something has changed for him. He hears whispers from the birds, the bunnies, and even Kevin, whispers of the goo, stating that something is evil at the school, and that Nugget can feel Kevin calling out to him, since Kevin is missing, just like Billy was. He proceeds to speak with the bird to prove that he isn't insane before being taken into the air. I'm sure that will end well. We get Austin to distract the teacher once again, and we head inside to get the axe. It takes a team effort, but we do manage to get it done. Outside, the janitor is fighting Linda, as Nugget comes through for aerial recon, I guess. Davy comes in from behind and hits the janitor, who even admits that his one weakness was an axe to the head. Linda enjoys herself an afternoon snack while Davey gives us an alligator friend nugget that we can use to access Linda's secret base from now on. It's a new day, and today we will be focusing on Emmy. We speak with Cindy, which leads to the destruction of poor Emmy's garden once again. We use the old eating goo trick to gain access to the school and find Emmy crying out by her flowers. But hold up, let's play that back real quick. Was that the principal chasing Lily into the tree? We'll get back to that a little later. Emmy asks us if we could retrieve her watering can so she can make the blue flowers non-poisonous, since apparently they coat themselves in a deadly toxin overnight, but it washes clean with some water. I would normally point out why teachers would allow a kindergarten student to grow poisonous flowers out in the playground, but the school allows straight up murder, so I'll stay quiet. We use our broken mop to threaten Stevie, who is guarding the classroom, remembering that this poor kid has mop PTSD. We grab the watering can and return to Emmy, who is much happier about having her bouquet of flowers. Cindy approaches during class, and Nugget calls her a girl of evil, which is damn appropriate if you ask me. She tells Nugget to leave since she has business with Blue Bouquet Becky. Nugget stands in the corner while Cindy gives Spinach Sarah a piece of her mind. And Emmy begins crying again about how Cindy already ruined her vegetables and she can't have these too. Cindy isn't one for taking no for an answer and takes them and goes to play house. We let Emmy know that it isn't personal. This is just Cindy being Cindy. We agree to get her some more flowers which are growing on the roof, but the only way to get there is the beanstalk method. We get our goo from Alice after Cindy bashes her head in, and we watch Nugget fail miserably again trying to climb with his claw, which allows us to reach the roof to get some flowers. We head to the bathroom to wash them off since we don't really want to die, and we give those flowers to Emmy and head to lunch. Cindy isn't happy about the fact that they both now have blue flowers, since it isn't special anymore. She notices that Emmy's lunch is a salad. Emmy points out that she's vegan, and that the school makes a special for her. Cindy states that she is also a vegan, and will now be taking Emmy's lunch for herself. This makes famished Felicia sad once again. Emmy is still extremely hungry, so we agree to help create a meal from 3 burgers, since burgers normally have salad in them, and since the burgers are normally quite dry here, none of the meat juices should get on the vegetables. 3 burgers and a beaten Monty later, we have a meal. As a thank you for our help today, Emmy wants to give us some red flowers from her garden during recess. And during recess, Cindy has decided that she now wants some red flowers for herself, and is less than pleased about her blue flowers, stating how you can never have too much of other people's things. Flowerless Fiona has gotten over the BS at this point and just tells Cindy to take them. This angers Cindy, since it's less fun when the people she torments aren't crying, and she just decides to leave. Emmy puts a hit out on Cindy, stating that she needs to go for the sake of her plants, and Cindy is now going to become fertilizer. She plans on creating goo plants that are carnivorous, and she needs a shovel and some goo plant seeds. We get the seeds, and we get the shovel, and we return them to Emmy. After school, Cindy notices Greenhouse Gertrude in her garden, and goes over to yell at her, saying that after all the things that she destroyed today, how could she still be trying to attempt to fix it? Just admit that she is prettier. Emmy gets pretty scary, to be honest, and traps Cindy inside the vegetable garden. 2 plants appear, and Cindy points out that the 2 plants are almost as ugly as eggplant Ender. Emmy starts returning some of the name calling back on Cindy, letting doomed Donna know that she's about to be uglier than all of them. Cindy, however, is not scared of some overgrown salad made by Hibiscus Hannah before the plants do their best Mike Tyson impression and get to work. Emmy tells beat up Brittany that she'll call them off if she just says sorry, which doesn't go over well with stubborn Susan. Holy hell. Ooh. Cindy completes her role as fertilizer fairer, and Emmy hopes that Cindy will nourish her plants. We are given a rare white flower that combats the effects of goo. The rabbits hate them, for example. We can now use this going forward as we return home for some counselling. The next day, our focus will be on Felix. We start by giving the friendship nugget to Linda, who takes us to her secret lair. On the table is a goo core, which we will need. Also, note to self, don't speak to the sleeping monster. It doesn't end well. We speak with Felix, who just got thrown out of his limo after being mistaken for Teddy after he swapped clothes with him to take Felix's spot in the rich academy. This won't do, and Felix requires a phone in order to call his father and fix this mix-up. He asks to speak with Monty since he normally sells stuff, and hopefully he is selling a phone. He points out that Monty is looking a little Incompetent, however, with stiff arms that we need to sort out since Felix doesn't want to talk to somebody that has that particular condition. Wow, Felix, not cool. We mentioned this earlier that Monty is wearing a dress. This dress allows him to walk again, after being in a wheelchair after the janitor gave him that mop treatment. However, while he can walk again, it does come at the expense of his arms. You see, after we dealt with Penny, Monty went down to the secret lab and grabbed a bunch of robot parts. This has allowed him to use his legs again. But the suit needs more power, since it's only enough for either his arms or his legs, and he's currently using it to walk, which means that for the time being, he is in a permanent state of T-pose. Thankfully, the goo core is a perfect power source for such a suit, and once we install it, he can use all 4 of his appendages. Felix asked for a phone, but Monty doesn't have any. Monty does, however, request the use of such a phone after lunch for his mop therapy sessions if we do manage to find one. Felix is upset, but Bondi reminds him that he has only now just got the use of his arms again, and he can now begin to build supply lines, but until then, he has nothing. We aren't completely out of luck, however, since there is a phone inside the principal's office, and we agree to be Felix's assistant, and he gives us a card to ring his father. He reminds us that his father is filthy rich, and will surely reward us for our help. We also learn his father's name is Huxley. Inside, Miss Applegate is pleased to be receiving her first disgruntled parent call, but quickly realizes that it's only the old principal on the phone, and that can't be right since he's missing. We offer her a pill from Monty's old collection that he made yesterday, which he gave to us as thanks for repairing his robot suit. She leaves and we can finally use the phone. It turns out that it actually is the old principal, and he is currently being held beneath the school by the new principal, Regis. We have better things to worry about, of course, and hang up, quickly ringing Felix's father, Huxley. We inform Huxley of the mix-up, and he praises Ted for his initiative, stating that he perhaps judged him a little too soon. He thinks Felix deserves to be at our dump of a school for falling for Ted's plan, but offers another solution. He will send a care package to the school. If Felix can get himself out of the school by the end of the day, he'll send them both to the academy. His boys will be tempered by brutal competition until one is worthy of his company. Incredible. He should write parenting books. He offers us something special that his company, Applesoft, has been working up as compensation for going along with this plan. When class begins, the janitor brings in a package for Felix, but the teacher oddly mistakes it as being for her. Felix states that this is his father that sent it to him, not her. The teacher is shocked and begins crying before leaving the classroom. Felix finds a phone and note inside the box, but he can't read. Monty offers his services and reads it for him, as long as he gets to keep the phone once Felix is done using it. He also wants to meet Huxley, since Monty has a business proposal for him, and Felix agrees. The note states that the code to enter the phone is his father's birthday, something that is going to prove difficult since Felix doesn't even know it, since it's never been deemed important. Davey points out just how upset the box made Miss Lovelet, who Monty suggests we should investigate further since she might know something more about the box, Huxley, or even his company. Inside the bathroom, Miss Lovelet is, crying, stating how Huxley didn't even tell her that he loved another, and how she isn't ready to be a stepmother. Turns out Miss Lovelet has been dating Huxley, and was not aware that he had children. She is refusing to leave the stall, so we need to encourage her a little bit. We use the services of the gutter wench, who uses her toilet magic to set her on fire. Nothing a quick shower can't fix. She decides that she needs to get completely drunk before her pain begins to set in, and quickly runs to Mr. Scipio because, he's an alcoholic. She tells him about Huxley, but he really doesn't care, stating that he stopped drinking after Alice went missing. She continues talking and points out that it's Huxley's birthday today and how they had a date. Good thing she conveniently brought that up in conversation. Alright, back to Felix. He unlocks the phone and calls Chopperton, his private pilot. He asks him to pick him up from school using the roof, but requires a flare that should have been in the box, but it wasn't. Not to mention that the school has an anti-air missile defense system that will need to be shut down. I must say I am surprised that this particular school has the budget for such a system. It seems that our janitor has helped himself to the flare since it reminded him of the war. Felix offers to distract the janitor so we may snatch the flare from his pocket. He decides to offer the janitor a job, but is quickly shut down as he reminds him that he didn't become a janitor for the money. Instead, he does it for the love of the game. What part of the janitor game, might you ask? Well, it's not the cleaning aspect. We get the flare while Felix gets a black eye. He takes his leave for the nurse, while Miss Lovelet is trying to get some relationship advice from Miss Applegate, which is not going very well. Applegate suggests that she speaks to another girl about her relationship problems, and she sets her eyes on Cindy. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Miss Lovelet decides to ask a 5-year-old girl for advice about her relationship. I'm sure this will end well. Cindy tells her that Huxley is rich, and to make it work. And since he's rich, he can probably hire some people to get him out of jail. What is with this girl and boyfriends that go to prison? Lovelet cares more about love than money, and disagrees with Cindy. Nugget, however, quickly yells out that he knows the ways of love. Miss Lovelet thinks that she might as well speak to the goo child since she's already scraping the bottom of the barrel. Nugget quickly points out how he was able to win Lily's love over after heroically drilling a hole through the goo monster yesterday. And the idea of winning affections through heroic feats is more up Miss Lovelet's alley. We sneak through the vents and acquire the scalpel while Felix is being patched up, which is vital for disabling the anti-air missile system. We head to recess, and are once again blocked from Monty and Stevie, who are having their sombrero meeting. Stevie points out to Felix that he might benefit from attending such a meeting, after what happened during lunch. Felix is not keen, but makes a compromise when Monty and Stevie tell him to attend just 1 minute to help him with his mop trauma. After that, he can leave. Monty decides to call the sombrero sponsor, using the phone. It turns out that it's Bob. And apparently Sombrero is going global since this is only one chapter of it. Bob is a big advocate for mops only being used to clean things, before Felix begins getting annoyed, which isn't fair since Bob currently has the talking teddy. We end up giving the phone to Miss Applegate to distract her while we leave via the vents. Turns out Bob and Applegate have a thing going, and she decides to leave the room so Bob can talk dirty to her. Bob points out that he's a janitor, so he prefers to clean. Nice. We head to the janitor's closet and cut the wires to the defense system. At this point, Monty asks if Felix plans on betraying him. We tell him, yeah, probably, and he just nods and tells us he will catch up soon. On the roof, we light the flare and the helicopter arrives. Miss Lovelet appears and attempts to get on the chopper, unsuccessfully. Maybe use the step next time. Monty restarts the anti-air system as revenge for the backstab, and shoots down the helicopter. We find Felix outside on fire, severely injured from his crash. His father rings and is not very happy, calling him by his full name, Felix Norstubble Welthington Huxley III. He asks why one of the choppers just got shut down, and Monty is quick to answer, explaining that it was him responsible. After finding out that it was Monty, Huxley quickly apologizes to him, and even agrees to send a limo when Monty requests it. We take back the phone and Monty leaves. It turns out that something important was on the chopper that Huxley didn't want Monty to know about, saying how Monty sabotaged a deal he was making in Bangkok once in the past, and how he was equally impressed as he was pissed. He goes on to say that the school was a hotspot for green goo and how Applesoft make an antidote that can revert the goo mutation process completely. He didn't want Monty to get his hands on it, since he was probably just going to make drugs with it like the last time he did when he got Applesoft's chemicals. He tells Felix to retrieve the anti-goo solution from the chopper wreck, but Felix points out that his legs currently don't work and that he's on fire. Huxley laughs, thankful that he has 2 sons. He disowns Felix, as Felix pleads not to be treated like Teddy. Huxley tells him that Teddy will be treated better from now on, since he beat Felix fair and square. We get the solution to use from now on, and Huxley sends another limo for us. Another day, another Wednesday. We head back to the secret lair and grab a purple book before returning to Alice. See, Alice has been having memory problems, and this purple book just so happens to be her diary. With it, she can hopefully retrace her steps and find out what happened on Monday, when she apparently went missing according to Mr. Scipio. We need to find her purple pen that opens up the book, which she feels could be near the lost and found in the principal's office, since it's likely Regis had something to do with her disappearance. A pretty confident guess considering what most principals get up to at these schools. After returning the pen and opening the diary, the first thing that she did was play house with Kevin. So now we need to go and play house again. Thing is, we are complete strangers, so it's better that somebody closer to Alice be her playmate. She chooses Austin, which is more than happy to oblige. But beforehand, he wants to show Alice just how good of a throwing arm he has, and proceeds to accidentally hit Emmy square in the eye with a rock, securing himself study hall for recess. Cindy is an absolute menace once again, not letting Alice and Austin play house. The two get into an argument before we're dragged into this whole mess by Cindy, who claims that we are her husband for this house session. Once again, Cindy goes down the route of us being a returning prisoner who now has an ankle bracelet, which we will have to just imagine since Cindy's mother won't be able to give her the one that she has. It all makes so much more sense now. They begin arguing about whose imaginary child is smarter. But first, we need our imaginary children, so we procure some nearby dolls. Now it's time to do maths, since that's the best way to tell which child is smarter. The problem here is that, well, we're 5, and we can't read, and we certainly don't know basic mathematics. But thankfully, we do have a brainiac here in Monty that will help us. He is willing to tutor us in maths if we get him a pill, which we can get from Emmy now that she's been doing her best pirate impression after she's high from the painkillers that the nurse gave her for her eye. We return the pill to Monty, who is very skeptical of his chances of being able to teach maths to anything even remotely related to Cindy, real or otherwise. To save himself an aneurysm of having to teach 2 plus 2 to Cindy, he gives us a calculator that will do the maths for us. We of course ace the test thanks to our mathematical computer friend and have Miss Lovelet grade the papers. As a reward from Cindy for beating Alice's fake child in a maths battle, she gives us a bottle of whiskey. See, it's a drink that dads like, and her mum hides it from her dad and only gives it back if the lights stay on. This girl is making more sense with every law drop that we get. The whiskey gives Alice a flashback that she spent lunch on Monday with Mr. Scipio, who is a raging alcoholic. We dip out of lunch and speak with Mr. Scipio. He doesn't believe his eyes when he sees Alice, since she's still missing and she went down the slide, and if she's here, they'll go after Timmy. We don't know who the hell Timmy is, but he tells Alice to go back to the cafeteria, and he requests the whiskey that we have. He isn't impressed by the quality and asks for better stuff. The guy must have forgotten that he just got that from some 5-year-olds, but sure. Turns out Mr. Scipio is a lightweight and falls asleep, which causes Alice to leave, but Mr. Scipio awakes again, saying that he just did that to make her leave. He points out that Alice is going to be dropped into a pit in the principal's office, and that we should disable the trap door. Not to mention that Regis will likely use his secret weapon when the trapdoor doesn't work, and he gives us a remote to disable whatever that is. We head back to Alice and we let her know the news. She's less than thrilled about potentially falling down into a pit, but we do tell her that we will be able to disable the trapdoor and set up a little trap of our own. We hide inside the office using one of the plant pots, and like clockwork, Alice is called into the principal's office. The trapdoor doesn't work, so he immediately calls for his Plan B. Plan B is Boo Boo, a goo-infested dog that cleans up any mess that Regis tells him to. We use the device that Mr. Scipio gave us to stun Boo Boo, giving Alice enough time to escape. Regis takes a secret device that was hidden and plans on taking a trip down the slide. Boo Boo chases Alice outside into the tree, and we have to use whatever playground weapons that we have at our disposal, to very poor effect. Nugget is not a fan of the Goo Puppy, and the Goo Rabbits are even less of a fan of Austin. We use our white flour to scare off the rabbits while setting Boo Boo up for a little haircut. We head inside the tree and find Alice speaking to Lily, who ran inside this tree earlier if you remember from Regis chasing her. If you're all wondering how she managed to get past the rabid Goo Rabbits that kill pretty much anyone that gets near them, if you look closely, Lily has one of those white flowers in her hair, so the rabbits leave her alone. Also, something else interesting is the fact that it seems like this little white flower in question is actually a lily, which is a little on the nose, but there you go. We find out that the slide is a secret entrance to the secret lair, and inside the slide is a device that can detect how certain kids react to goo. If it detects that they react to it, then the slide detours to the secret laboratory. If nothing is detected, then the kid reaches the bottom like any normal slide. Pretty cunning if you think about it. The device that we got from the office, however, overrides this and would allow anybody to enter the secret laboratory. Back near the playground, Lily is being scolded by Miss Lovelet, who told her to get back inside, and isn't willing to listen to her about experimentations or abductions. Nugget, of course, is love-struck after seeing Lily. Still rocking the claw, I see. Keep it up, Nugget, it's a matter of time. We head down the slide with Alice and Austin, but Austin is pushed down the normal slide while we head down into the secret lair with Alice. We see Regis down here with the old principal David tied up. David is yelling how the lab was created to stop goo mutations, not actually cause them, but Regis is a little too focused on getting his next promotion. We also see Kevin, Alice's old friend who also went missing, and he's looking a little monstrous, I have to say. He uses the shapes on the floor to activate a bunch of traps and sets the goo core to explode after he leaves. Alice is trapped since she possesses the goo gene, and it leaves us to have to deactivate all the traps, disable the goo core, and save everybody. There's a helping hand here and there too much to ask for. Thankfully, Alice took a hit to the head when she reached the bottom of the slide, and now remembers everything. She points out a decoder that she had left nearby on the wall with all of the codes to do a bunch of stuff. Very convenient. We disable all the traps, but are unable to free David. deciding that we are better off to pursue this further tomorrow with more information. We escape as David mentions before, he explodes, that he cares about Alice more than his own son, Davy, and how ridiculous it is that Davy has such a fascination with that alligator. Spending your last few seconds on this planet complaining about how much of a disappointment your 5-year-old son is. Now that's some nasty work. Once we're safe, Alice points out how there is a certain gene that some kids have that react to green goo. The kids that withstand it are able to be turned into monsters. Lily points out that that's why Billy was taken. He also had the gene. Alice has it, Kevin has it, and I think even Nugget might have it. But if they experience trauma, they then turn into monsters. Alice points out that there are a bunch of tunnels that connect all the elementary schools in the area. It looks like an old school, but just underground. These are the same tunnels that Regis took Kevin down shortly before we arrived in the laboratory. We get to keep the code decoder for our troubles as we restart the day once again. This time we have a chat to Nugget, who is once again playing in the goo puddle. We show him the lily flower, which reminds Nugget of the times before the goo, which was technically only 2 minutes ago, but Nugget feels like they were such distant memories. He sniffs the flower and begins screaming, saying how he's covered in goo and how he needs to get it off him. He attempts to go to the bathroom, but the teacher won't let him inside unless he agrees to star in a play. Nugget quickly picks Romeo and Juliet just so the teacher will let him pass. Inside, we help Nugget shower, since he doesn't even know what a shower is, but alas, he is clean. He points out that he forgot that he was meant to meet Lily in the tree at the playground, since the goo made him forget. Regis is out here during his chase routine, and he asks us to retrieve Lily from the tree, and that we need to do what he says since he's the principal. Inside, Nugget is asking Lily for a bunch of nuggets and a shovel, so that he can create a nugget cave of love for Lily, which would conveniently head down into the lab. He wastes no time and heads outside to begin finding what he needs. Lily tells us about Billy, and how he's running a separate operation in a different school. Billy also found papers in the lab yesterday that had Mr. Scipio's name on it. These same papers mentioned Alice and Kevin that were also captured here, and she believes that Kevin is still down in the lab. The curse of living the same day over again. Nugget now has goo telepathy, and he can talk to other goo-infested creatures, like this bird here. Apparently, Nugget informed the bird about the fake principal, and the bird is not a fan. So we put that to the test. Oh, goddamn. At class, the teacher requires someone to play Juliet, to play opposite Nugget as Romeo. The girls aren't fans, and Cindy wouldn't even kiss him if it meant her dad getting off probation. Nugget has an idea and suggests that Lily be Juliet, and goes to find her. Stevie is holding down the fort, since Nugget didn't get a hall pass. However, Nugget never technically got cured from his goo exposure, and he just straight up grows a claw, which he puts to good use. Mr. Scipio is having none of the Nugget claw business, and we need to find him a drink if we want to talk to him again. Outside, without his crutch, Stevie is reminiscing about the times where being a hall monitor was so much easier. Before the days that kids would grow monster claws. Before the days where you'd be beaten half to death with a mop by the school janitor. The good days. We find Mr. Scipio's old flask in the trash can outside, and it doesn't take long to get this alcoholic drinking again. It turns out that Mr. Scipio and Dr. Dana from our previous school went to college together. This does provide a connection, since Alice was one of the kids at the previous school that we saved, since she technically went missing on Monday. They discovered the gene that only expresses itself in 5-year-olds. After that, the gene stops being detectable. Lily points out that we saw an adult mutate only yesterday, which surprises Mr. Scipio, stating that it must have been an astronomical amount of goo in order to make an adult mutate. Lily asks how children were cured from the goo afterwards. Mr. Scipio points out the proprietary chemical that Applesoft made, but the further along the mutation, the more cure that is needed. Nugget points out that he will struggle to dig his cave with a claw, and asks if the nurse can still fix him, while Mr. Scipio is not sure if Kevin can even be cured since it's been a few days, but it would take a huge dose if it was even possible. Before Nugget leaves, he asks Lily to be Juliet in his play, something that he requires since the teacher would literally send him to study hall if he doesn't complete the play, which means that he can't dig his Nugget cave. Lily reluctantly agrees, and we return for lunch while Nugget gets healed. Lily asks the teacher what scene they're going to do for the play, and Miss Lovelet chooses the scene where they both die. Romeo is poisoned and Juliet stabs herself in the heart. An interesting choice indeed. It turns out that Miss Lovelet is more sadistic than I ever realized. She believes in authenticity, so she hands Nugget an actual poison drink and Lily a real blade, stating that it makes for a better show and not to tell the cops. Lily refuses, but Mrs. Lovelet threatens study hall if they don't, expire themselves in the name of art. We decide to fake it, behind the teacher's back obviously, and we acquire a bottle of ketchup that will act as fake blood, and Nugget simply just needs to pretend to drink the poison and not actually drink it. It's pretty simple. Let the show begin. A kiss on the forehead, a fake sip of the drink, and... oh, wait. Yeah, that's right, it's Nugget. He drank that for real. Lily finishes the scene while Nugget is still conscious. While foaming at the mouth, Nugget clarifies with the teacher that he doesn't have study hall, with Miss Lovelet letting him know that he is free to play if he somehow survives this poison. Lily is mad at Nugget for doing, well, Nugget things. He points out that he forgot that he wasn't meant to drink it when he got to kiss Lily, and that he normally doesn't mind poison, but this one actually hurts. We speak to the teacher about an antidote, and randomly it's contained within one of the sodas in the cafeteria vending machine, so we sort that out real quick. Lily points out that she ran into Alice in the hallway and Alice didn't even remember her from our rescue yesterday, but that's besides the point. It's time for a nugget heist and some tunnel digging. Outside, the bird agrees to leave our small intestines inside of our bodies as long as we cure it tomorrow. It will also take us to a stack of nuggets for the cave. We let it take us to the rooftop, which contains a mountain of nuggets. We pour them down into the hole, which reminds Nugget of his homeland. Whatever that means. We waste no time and jump down with Nugget and Lily. Nugget is staring down Kevin, as he points out that the second that he loses his eye contact, Kevin will obliterate Nugget's face with his claw. We give Nugget a friendship nugget to help Kevin calm down. And would you believe it, it actually worked. Kevin tells us that it's too late and the new principal will appear soon and kill everyone. The lab's self-destruct sequence starts and we begin looking for the exit. The old principal can't believe that his life's work is being used to experiment on children, and he hopes that there's a good coffee machine in hell waiting for him. We ask if we could save Kevin, and he mentions that the gun on the wall, if filled with Applesoft's formula, could theoretically save Kevin, but we would need to start the process much earlier in the day. Luckily for us, we have that formula from helping Huxley, and we can actually restart our day to deal with this problem earlier. Not to mention, we now have an RC car that we can remotely use to put in the security inputs from the cage. Before we leave, Davey asks us to give his son Davey a duck toy, stating that Davey will know what it means. The duck attracts Linda, and she's willing to help us escape in exchange for the duck, which we accept since we're seconds away from being meat piles. Now for our final day here. This time we head straight to the lab using our alligator friendship nugget, and we use the RC car to open up the gate. We manage to disable the lasers and get our hands on the gun, which is now filled with Applesoft's formula. We get ourselves a no-scope headshot on Kevin and begin the curing process. He visually hasn't changed all that much, but he does destroy the chain and releases David, who disables the self-destruct sequence. Our job now is to use the gun to cure all creatures affected by goo, such as the bird, the bunnies, Boo Boo. You get the idea. We get the duck again for Davey, but this time we don't need to give it to Linda to escape. Once in class, the teacher mentions that the principal is now sending a robot to search all students for something that's been stolen. Before the robot arrives, we use the gun to cure Nugget of his gooey ways. The robot detects the anti-goo serum and fires, but Miss Lovelet was in the way and took some collateral damage. Alice is freaking out, mentioning how the robot does really horrible things, so the class teams up on the robot. Austin disables its sight, while Davey puts that axe to good use, once again after we hand him the duck that his dad gave us. The robot attempts to martyrdom, so we get Emmy to pour water into it to make it short circuit. I'll be honest, this last step could have easily ended badly, but it seems like it worked. We get the goo core from the robot and give it to Monty for his exoskeleton so it doesn't blow up. The principal declares that the school is over for the day due to unforeseen circumstances, which leaves us, Davey, Monty and Nugget, once the rest of the students have gone to head home. We inform Davey about his father being underground, and we set out to meet back up with him using Linda. We give Nugget the cure gun to use on all the animals, including Guppy. Outside, the principal has ambushed Nugget, who has freed the bird and Guppy, but was just shy of releasing Boo Boo. He yells to Boo Boo that there is indeed a life beyond the goo, and it falls on deaf ears. We use the bird to buy time before it gets yeeted, but it does force the principal into the secret lair. We use the remote to stun Boo Boo, which allows Nugget to cure him and the nearby rabid rabbits, which are much cuter post-goo. Lily rejoins us as we head to Linda with the cured animals. Don't ask how all of us fit within the mouth of this alligator, but Linda did say that she will take her cut for the trip after we arrive. Turns out the cut that Linda wanted was one of the cute rabbits. Sorry, it's Mother Nature at work. Turns out David isn't doing so well, as Davey correctly points out that David didn't have a hole in his chest the last time we saw him. David is happy that Davey got the duck, and tells him that he will understand what it means when he's older. He tells us that Kevin is next door, in the reversion chamber, and that we need to put all of the cured animals in the opposite chamber so the anti-goo, otherwise called oog, which is just goo spelt backwards, will cure Kevin. Inside the chamber we have the principal, which somehow brought the anti-air missiles down here, into the tunnel, which seems redundant since we're underground, but still dangerous I'm sure. Thankfully we get some context since he loves monologuing. Once they find children with the goo gene from the slide, they ship them off to be experimented on. Kevin is a unique one, due to his size and strength, which doesn't normally happen with other children. He was planning to send Kevin down the tunnel network and let a mysterious herd deal with him, and that's about it. Time to fight. With the help of the cured animals, we managed to overpower the principal and his devices, sending him down a hole into goo thanks to Linda. Davey activates the reversion chamber to cure Kevin, since his father just told him how to do it, and just like that, we now have a cured Kevin. Alice returns and is delighted to see Kevin again, while Davey explains that the duck that he received was just explained by his father, stating that he is part of a sacred order that goes by many names, such as Bill Brothers, Duck Dudes, Anateen Amigos, and lastly, the Quack Pack. I'm a fan of the last one personally. We head down to give Linda some backup with Davey, and it is a total kaiju fight down here between the principal and Godzilla-fied Linda. We need to maneuver to break open the anti-goo canisters onto the principal to weaken him using his own defense systems, leaving Linda to hit the fatality with a literal Godzilla beam as the facility explodes and we begin falling, thus ending the game of Kindergarten 3. Now don't worry, there is also a secret ending that we're going to go over quickly. If you collect all the Monstermon plushies throughout the game, you'll get a red-robed Nugget who requires our assistance. He turns the sky red with just a flick of his fingers as the janitor points out that this reminds him of the war. Oh damn, that's a literal bloodbath, as apparently Nugget is a straight up god now. The meteors even target Emmy's carrots and cabbages because it's so evil. Cindy has a last laugh at Meteor Mindy before getting destroyed herself. Davey attempts to flee with Linda but fails, and even Applegate isn't safe. Ted arrives and points out that while he thought that this school would be a hellhole, he didn't expect it to be an actual literal hellhole. The principal and Stevie get destroyed before Nugget allows us to return home, breaking the fourth wall and thanking us for playing. And with that, we have finished the story of Kindergarten 3. If you made it to the end of the video, put Quack Pack in the comments below. Bonus points if you include a duck emoji, so I know you got here. I will be releasing Kindergarten 1 and 2 Story Explained over the next few days, so keep an eye out for that. And remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and of course subscribe for more content in the future. I have a lot of videos in the pipeline, and I cannot wait to share it all with you. Thanks again for watching guys, until next time, peace.